Thank you so much to our viewers, wherever you are tuning in. Welcome to Lagos State Media Beyond Boundaries. And on this day, the 21st of January 2023, we have in the studio our guest, Oyet Patrick, the President of the Union of Journalists of South Sudan. And Mr. Patrick will talk to South Sudanese in the diaspora and those back at home in things that pertain journalism, the ethics, the code of conduct, and the alleged journalists which were detained in our country, including Garang John. He will also give us highlight on the response from the government. We all remember a few months ago, government, especially last year, wrote a letter that there are no journalists that will be allowed to use their smartphone in order to cover it or to cover the event or to record any kind of event. And President responded accordingly. So he will also update the public in that regard. Mr. Oyet Patrick, before we dive into our conversation today, let me remind our viewers, if you are really watching us now and listening to us, kindly I'm requesting you to share this live show on your wall, because there are disinformation and miscommunications online in regard to the journalists. And Oyet Patrick is the right person to give us the first-hand information. And we would be happy for each and every South Sudanese to get this information accordingly. Secondly, you can also subscribe to Lagos State Media YouTube channel in order to get notification by the time you will not be in a position to listen to our live show. Up to this juncture, I will allow our guests Oyet Patrick to give us his opening remark before we dive into our conversation. And remember, our conversations will not that be long. We understand the president of the journalists union, Oyet Patrick, is tired and also is getting late in South Sudan. It's evening hours. So we will allow our team to do some stuff. Oyet Patrick, you can give us your opening remark, brother.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I always like you guys because, Lake State Media, you are doing something. You are taking us to another level in terms of online media, which in South Sudan is a struggle because of the problem of internet connectivity in some places and also some technological issues. So I'm very happy always to be on Lake State Media because, as your slogan clearly says, you go beyond boundaries. So this is really very good, and I think it encourages everybody to also try to do the same because media, we should not limit. The world has now changed, and we should also be able to reach beyond our boundaries. So thank you so much always for having me.
Thank you so much, President Oyet Patrick, for your opening remark. And on behalf of Lagos State Media, we are delighted and honored for the recognition. You see, it's very important sometimes to receive recognition from the boss. And if I say the boss, you are our boss now.
Thank you.
Thank you, my
Thank you.
brother. We will try our best because our
Thank
country
you.
nowadays need information than guns. Because
Exactly.
misinformation sometimes lead to the fight and the quarrels around our government and even the private sector. So
Exactly.
it is our duty as South Sudanese and our obligation to make sure we dig out the accurate information from the rightful sources. Thank you for giving us your time and also always responding to our call once we need you to come and make some clarification. Yeah, Mr. Oyet Patrick, we will start with the issue of journalists which were detained. There were some rumors going on social media, and as an online media platform, we don't buy those information. The only information that we always confirm is what's come out from the rightful source, especially the journalists themselves or the leadership headed by you. Can you brief the public what transpired that led to the detention of those journalists, and what are the steps so far that has been done by your office in coordination with the leadership of our land? Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you. Thank you very much. What happened actually to some of our colleagues, some of our journalists, is that they were detained. I think this is common knowledge now. They have been taken to National Security Headquarters. And this happened on 3rd of January. On exactly 3rd of January, we started receiving information in the evening hours that some SSBC staff, South Sudan Broadcasting Corporation staff, had been taken by the National Security Service personnel, and they were taken to what they call the Blue House, which many of us know. And we could not verify that information since it came late on 3rd. On 4th, we followed up with the management of SSBC. Unfortunately, the managing director was out of the country, and there was nobody we could talk to. And then on 5th, we followed up with the national security. We went to the Blue House and we met with some officials. We requested them for information if what we were hearing outside was a true, explanation of what had happened. And on the initial question that we had them, they told us that we should give them time. They needed to also first do their internal checking and give us accurate information. So on that day, we left without really first confirming. But later in the day, we were called and were told that, yes, regarding the question you were asking, we have SSBC staff. There are 6 They are with us. You should not worry. They are for investigation. This investigation regards a video that went out on especially social media, the video of the president when he was officiating a function. And we all know what we have. I think all of us have seen what happened. We don't need to talk much about it to explain exactly what happened, unless you want me to do so. But that was the whole issue. And they told us that these people were taken for investigation. And if the investigation was over, we would know the next action. Our questions were as follows. One, can we see them? To which they say no. That's why they have taken them away. They did not want the investigation to be watered down by people coming and talking to these people who are being investigated, and perhaps making the investigation more complicated. We asked, so can are they in contact with the management of SSBC? They said yes, they were in contact, but also the SSBC management was not allowed to go and physically see them. But they were taken from SSBC and management was informed. We asked, what would be the next action? Because normally we know that the constitution, our constitution, transitional constitution 2011 says somebody has to be produced in court within 24 hours when they're arrested. Then they told us that this is actually, according to the national security, they're not calling it arrest. They told us that, we have these people for their own safety and for us to have a proper investigation, and we'll let you know how things will unfold. So we ended it there. And then the next day, we went to SSBC to try to find out from the management also their version of the story. And of course, as I told you, the managing director was out of the country, and we went and found people who are working in acting capacity, and they explained to us exactly what happened. And this is what they told us. They told us that on 3rd, the national security officials went to SSBC with a list. In the list, there were 6 people. And they told management that we have come. We need these people. We need these people to go with us for investigation. We know each of these people. We know each of their homes. We could have gone to their homes and picked them from home, but we think that is not the right thing to do. We think since they work in your institution, and what we are taking them to investigate concerns work. So we decided to come at workplace and let you know that we are going to have them. So we need them. And at that point, one person was out of Juba. Victor Lado was in Yambio. They told the management that we know that one person is away, but we will bring him. So who are these 5 who are at that time available? It was Sherbek Ruben with Shakir, Joval Tombe. We have Joseph Oliver Wani. We had Mustafa Osman, and then we had Jacob Benjamin. These were the people who were available in Juba, and they were taken by the national security officials for investigation. We asked the management of SSBC that now, as a union, what do you want us to do, or how do you want us to help? And the management said at this particular time, or at that particular time, they did not have anything to ask from us, because they know that the staff who were taken for investigation. There was still no case. So we asked, we said, what about a lawyer? If we get a lawyer, for example, to follow up the case, even a lawyer, they would not need at that time, because there were no charges. They advised us to wait, that we should wait. And this is what happened with the 5. Now, of course, as we were talking to the management, the 6th person who was Victor Lado was already brought also from Yambio, and he had joined the rest. And when that unfolded, we did not stop as advised by the SSBC management. We went and issued the statement saying that yes, we have come to confirm that 6 SSBC staff are now with national security, and the reason is that they are being investigated. We put this statement out. We also started engaging with the lawyers to ensure that the case is followed up. Especially, we were very concerned about the issue of access, seeing them, talking to them, finding out how the investigation is going, finding out about their health, if they're okay or not. And we engaged with lawyers. There were some fees that were needed. We looked for some money. We secured, even though the money up to now has not yet reflected to the lawyers, but we secured some funding. We got some lawyers to work on this case. And This case had been going on, and we have been following, especially with the Blue House, the national security. There are people who provide us information, say this is what is happening, and the issue developed until last week. Last week, there was information that we got that there were some people who were supposed to be released. There were some people who were supposed to be released last week, but that there were also some names that were mentioned. And because some more names were mentioned, the national security officials wanted to first carry out more investigation again. And so we were wondering, who are these people who are really, again, named? And then on Monday this week, again, information came out that Garang John was missing. And we started following up. We also talked to the person who was with Garang, the time, they were together and how they separated. And we followed up. And again, it was confirmed to us by the national security that, yes, these people, or Garang, has joined the 6 who were there. And therefore, he's with them. And just the day before yesterday, on Thursday this week, 3 of the first group that was taken were released. That is, Joval Tombe was released, Sherbek Robin was released, and also Joseph Oliver was released. So these 3 are now out, and now the people who are remaining in custody of national security are 4. That is including Garang John. And we have asked, when we put this in writing, we have said, at this juncture, we know it has been very difficult for us to really access these people, but we request that these people must be presumed to be innocent. This is the first thing. Let us presume they are innocent. Number 2, let us be fair as we do the investigation. Let us not put them under undue pressure. And then let there be transparency, and let there be rule of law. And by this, we mean they should have actually been taken even to court if there was a case. So basically, this is how the situation is as far as the journalists of SSBC are concerned.
Thank you so much, Mr. Oyet Patrick, for that explanation from the genesis up to where you are today. And that is the leadership. In case of anything happening to one journalist, it happens to all journalist fraternity in South Sudan. So it is always a great opportunity for you to follow up with them. As you know, Mr. President, sometimes journalists can perform 2 roles. They can tarnish the image of their country, and they can decide to protect the image of their country. And that is their work, depending on the ethics and code of conduct. In the process of all these things happening in our country now, seen the unfortunate viral clips which was leaked by fellow South Sudanese. Are there some of the journalists who has lost their life in the process? Because the rumors still saying that some journalists lost their lives seen that day, and they're even exaggerating the numbers of the people. And such information sometimes to the international community, they always take them other serious matters. And no any country that stand alone without support from the rest of the countries in the world. So South Sudan is among the world nation, and its supports always come from other countries, as South Sudan always gives supports to other countries. So kindly, can you tell us in brief, and we are really happy that national security or our government released some of the journalists which were detained. That was a good move, and we, on behalf of Lagos State Media, we appreciate you for the role that you played for those people to be released. Exactly, that is where we are supposed to move as the nation. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you. Let me clarify that up to now, according to our record, there's no journalist, no South Sudanese journalist has lost his life. In fact, since December, we have not had, since this incident happened, we've not had any journalist who has lost his life in any way, whether through natural cause or sickness or anything or accident. We've not had, whether through security, that they have been arrested and then they have lost their life in the process. We've not had this. These are really things that are out there, and with their rumors that have no facts. We always check. As you know, we have offices in all the 10 states of South Sudan at the moment, and we always check. Weekly, we have reports that come to us in Juba about whatever small incident happens in the country as far as journalists is concerned. Even when a radio station is closed, whether it is for financial problem or any reason, we always get this information. So no journalist has been arrested. This is part of a lot of disinformation and misinformation or information distortion, which is going out. And if you remember, also in December, there was already some disinformation going out. People were saying, or misinformation, people were saying journalists were arrested. That was December, and there was nobody arrested. So really, to be very honest, nobody has been killed. Whereas we are not happy with the arrest. We think that the arrest has not followed the law. We do not refuse investigation, because, as you rightly say, you know, all over the world, if something happens to a head of state, even if a head of state his convoy was moving and the car is in, the tire gets a puncture, investigation will take place. They have to investigate why that particular the car had a puncture. So investigation in itself is not bad at all. What we are only saying is that the investigation should follow the law, because there are laws that are set, like you don't arrest somebody and keep the person for long without taking the person to court and so on. These are the laws that we need to follow, so that we set a good standard for our country, for ourselves. We are not against investigation. We are not against going to court, for example, if somebody has a case to answer and to be taken to court. We are not against it at all. And as a union, we will always find a lawyer or a group of lawyers to stand and be with our person. So we are not against it. We want the law to be followed, but we want rumors also. This disinformation, misinformation should not really create panic and make people to fear to do their work. So this is the fact. No journalist has been killed.
Thank you so much, Mr. President, for that clarification. I truly believe those who are watching us live now will get that fact straight and also disseminate it to the rest of the people online. Sometimes assumptions and sometimes can kill the whole nation. If we assume that this thing has happened, and in real sense, that was not the case. So it's very unfortunate, and thank you for that clarification. Before we move to the next question, can you give us, our viewers, also a brief clarifications on the arrest of Grand John?
Yes.
Because what people heard on social media was that Grand John was actually kidnapped, and you know, when the country is at that stage, like our country, and you hear somebody being kidnapped by the security apparatus, you always worried. So kindly, we need to know, is Grand John arrest came as a result of the unfortunate viral clips or a different case? Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, the people who are saying that Garang John was kidnapped are right. They are right. They are right because, as we always say, that let us follow the law. The procedure of arrest was not followed. The information we got is that Garang John was called on Saturday last week. He was called by one of the national security officials who said, Garang John, one of the people who are for investigation has mentioned that his drive is with you. So we kindly need that drive. So Garang told that officer that I work with one of those people in the same office, in my private office. We work together. I do not know if he has brought any foreign drive in the office. I will check, and indeed, if I get, I will hand over to you. However, as per now, I am in Sherikat for a marriage ceremony, so I will not be able to help. Give me time. On Sunday again, that officer called Garang, and Garang told him, yes, I got your information. As I told you yesterday, I was for marriage. Today, Sunday, I didn't go to the office. Give me time until Monday. On Monday, Garang went, checked, and found indeed that there was a drive. And they communicated and said, yes, I found this drive. Then he told him, now, if you found a drive, I'm going to direct you to give to somebody. And he gave a number, which phone number Garang called, and the person told Garang that that person whom Garang called was in Gumbo. So in this scenario, Garang now asked a colleague, Chol Duang, that Chol, please help me drop me to Gumbo because I am taking a drive. Narrated this whole story to Chol Duang. And they went together. When they went to Gumbo, when they reached the compound of the place where they were told to meet, he called the number which he was given, and the person said, okay, now I am inside, you come inside. Therefore, Garang left Cholduang with his laptop and only removed the drive. He went inside. When he went inside, then again, they did not take even 1 minute. They came out with the people, assuming whom he had been talking to, and they went into a different car, which was parked. And when Garang was going, he indicated to Cholduang to follow them. And they went and entered that car, and the car left. Cholduang started following the car. The car had no number plate, and he was stopped. Cholduang was stopped by some people whom he did not know, but they purported, or they said they were security officers, and they wanted to check his logbook of the car, his driving license, which they did. And then they also said they wanted to check what he was carrying in the car. They found a laptop. They asked him whose laptop it was. He said the laptop was for Garang, which laptop also they took. And then they allowed him to go. By that time, when they allowed him to go, the car he was following had already gone. So indeed, those people who are saying Garang was kidnapped are right in a way, because the process of arrest was not followed according to what the law provides. This is how he was taken. And as a union, we immediately started following. When we heard that this is what happened, we started following the case until later the national security confirmed to us that they had him also for investigation related to the same case. So this is what happened to Garang John.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. President Oyet Patrick, for that explanation. Indeed, Garang John was kidnapped. Otherwise, it was also Balanda on his side to go and give drive to somebody in Gumbo. And you know
Correct.
the distance from Blue House to Gumbo.
I know.
So in real sense, something was not clear until
Exactly.
Cholduang posted it on social media.
Exactly.
Otherwise, we would have been talking now on a different angle. But thank you for that explanation. The whole process was not constitutional and was not even accurate. Better for the journalists which they went to SSBC office to seek for themselves to come to the Blue House. Those were, at least it was good for them to go to SSBC, but for telling somebody to go to your house in Gumbo or wherever you are, and then the fella end up being taken to an unknown location is unconstitutional. Thank you for that. Yeah, the next questions. On 18th of this month, 2023, we saw you with your committee. You went to meet with the press secretary in the office of President, Madam Lilia Diu. And in that press, two things came out clearly, that you were going to consult and also have a clear working framework with the office of the president as a media fraternity or media personnel. Can you explain to our viewers, Mr. President Oyet, does it mean that the relationship of journalists and the office of president has not been good, or why were you going with your delegation or your leadership? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yes, we met with the press secretary, and the meeting was good. We met for several reasons. Reason number one, when she was appointed, we never had the opportunity to really meet her, and as a press secretary in the office of the president, it is always important that we work in close collaboration. This happened even during the time of Atej. We met him also, and we discussed with him a lot of issues. And since press secretary Lily came, we had not met her. So this was the first reason as to why we had to meet her. Secondly, since she came to office, which we came later to learn when we met her, that she has not been very vocal. She has not been talking a lot. And we had also complained from fellow journalists who were saying that they could not contact her. It was difficult to access her. So we needed to also pass this information to her, of which she replied to. She said, yes, it's not that she is not accessible. Anybody who has a contact, who calls her, she's always willing to talk, and she's ready to talk. There were several things she pointed out. Number one, she said she was new and she was still trying to, put her house in order. This was one thing she told us. Number two, number three now, we also wanted to have a kind of a proper channel of communication, because something happened when the Sudan's president, General Al-Burhan, came to Juba. Journalists were invited to go to the airport. The instruction was that journalists would go to the airport, cover the arrival. After the arrival, they would be transported to the president's office, where the two heads of state would meet, and later on give statement and so forth. This was the communication. When journalists went to the airport, they were being asked, "Who invited you?" They say, "Who invited you?" And everybody was surprised. This communication came from the office of the president, and now we're being asked who invited us. And there was some hiccup here and there. The security was saying they were not informed. The protocol was saying they were not informed, and so forth, until there was no car to transport journalists from the airport to the office of the president. And when the journalists found their own ways to go there, they were told this is going to be a closed door meeting, so you have to just go back and maybe we'll call you later. So you see that kind of thing. So that is a concern for us, because we do not want something that creates for us something that looks like we have any tension. We've never had problem, by the way, covering the office of the president. We've always followed the system, and this system is all over. You come early, the security will check your equipment, they make sure you are properly screened, and you go and cover. We've never had this kind of situation. So we wanted this situation to continue where we don't have any problem. We also raised the issue of sometimes we see our colleagues from the region, or even from far away overseas, come and interview our president. President His Excellency Salva Kiir, but our journalists do not get that chance. So we also raised this point, to which she promised that she's going to work on, and priorities will be given to South Sudanese journalists to interview the president. Another thing that also we discussed was the issue of journalists also meeting the president, just maybe meet and greet, of which also she said she's working on something. So these were some of the issues that really we met about. And also she said she's also working on a proper system, maybe where each media house will have to give some names of journalists, and these journalists will be given IDs, whereby if there's anything in the office of the president, it will be very easy for them to access, rather than every day new people come and then you have to screen them and so on and so on. So I can say the meeting was timely and very good.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. President Oyet Patrick. Actually, the follow-up question before we move to the next question is that according to your analysis as the head of that institution of journalists, across the world, such big events of head of another state coming to your state, sometimes the first people to arrive at the scene side or at the venue side should be the journalists. And for them to be questions who invited you, it means there is something fishing. According to your own analysis of this question, and also the shortcomings of them being told that you'll be transported to the office of the president and you will cover the event of 2 head of state meetings, which did not happen. Do you believe all these bumps were the results of the recent clip? Or is it because that the office of the president felt like journalists are letting them down in some way? Thank you.
Thank you. Since the video came out, there is fear among journalists. First of all, there is fear, and now it adds to when I believe that also there is also fear among the security guys and maybe the protocol people, because when such a thing goes out, it is a failure of everybody. By the way, the journalist who sent it out will also have to be questioned or questions himself or herself whether what I have done, is it correct, is it ethical, is it according to the code of conduct. You also question yourself. The security would also question themselves that did we fail to do our work? Maybe we should have stopped this. And the protocol also. So everybody really feels that something maybe went wrong because they did not do their job. This feeling is there. And for that reason, it's a fact that there is a bit of tension. There's a bit of tension, and we want this to end because if one person has done something, it doesn't mean everybody has done it. And even that occasion, people who are there are known, not that everybody was there. So it is unfortunate. Whatever has happened. But at the end of the day, we have to move on. We have to continue doing our work. I believe that with the events that are coming in the country, like now the constitution making process, the bill was signed in December. And by the way, something else also, that bill that was signed, it was signed, and after a few days, which by the way ends today, the commission that is supposed to be running the making of the constitution is supposed to be formed. It should have been formed maybe today, but we don't know whether it will be done or not. So with the coming of the constitution making process, the elections and so forth, journalists and the media is very much key to sensitizing the public. That's why I say Lake State media has a big role to play, because you reach more areas than even some of the media here reach, to the states and so forth. So there is need for the public to be sensitized, to know what they need to do. Why should they even register to vote? Why should they even offer themselves to contest? Why should they even vote? All these kind of things when elections come, even the constitution making process, why should they participate? So we really need each other. As media, we need the officials. As officials, they also need us. So if there is any problem, and problems will always be there, issues will always be there, there has to be a way of finding a solution to those issues so that people can continue working. So yes, there has been some tension, but we are working to ensure that that tension is finished, is killed.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Patrick. Indeed, you have mentioned two critical points, that the constitutional making process and the elections. And as most of the philosophers always say, the best politician is a friend to the media. So once a politician is always friends to the media personnel, then that person knows how to respond allegation and how to dispute and how also to sell his idea easily without even struggling. And this year, up to next year, the media houses, especially in the country and online and outside the country, will have a big role to play if our government understand the responsibility of the media. And your explanation that there is attention, seeing that unfortunate clip happened between journalists or the media personnel with the security apparatus and even citizens themselves. Because once they see you as a media personnel, they always suspect you that these people are the ones that betray the interests of our country, which is not. The last questions, or the second last question, Mr. Patrick, are there some booklets which your office designed that contains the work ethics, norms, and the code of conduct of journalists in South Sudan? In case of anything happening, then what should happen to that journalist? What are the procedures for that journalist to be taken to court and to be convicted? On that side,
Yes.
on that question, part of it actually, is there some oath that's being taken if, like, I finished my bachelor degree in communication and journalism and join your industry in South Sudan? Are there some oaths that I should take, at least to bow to my country and to my duties? Are there such things that governs the journalists? Because there are some sensitive information always leaked out, but all this information leak out in the hand of journalists. And that is why you see the government is not trusting the media personnel. Thank you, President.
Thank you. Yes, we have some document not designed by the Union of Journalists. It is actually designed by Media Authority. Media Authority has a code of conduct for the practice of journalism in South Sudan. Sorry, this book is there, is available. Most of us have it. I think, especially people in Juba, journalists in Juba almost all have. In the States, we have also given some out. So the code is there. The code of conduct is there. And to be specific, to talk about this issue that happened of the president, this issue, and as a journalist, you really need to ask yourself several questions. Number one, is this of public interest, what I'm going to put out? And this goes to every story that you have. This story that I'm going to put out, is it in the interest of the public? How is it going to help the public? The public has a right to know. But if I put this information out, will it help the public or will it not? This is number one. Number two, what about my ethics? For example, we have learned about health reporting as journalists, and you are told, for example, if I'm interviewing somebody who is HIV positive, I may need to protect the identity of that person if the person doesn't want to be identified. And it goes on for other diseases as well. It is the first priority is to protect the identity of the person if it is something to do with health journalism. So if I am putting something that I am doubting whether this is a health issue or not, if there is any doubt, it's better you don't put it out, because you must put out something that you are 100% sure that this is what I know and this is correct. So that's another issue. And then you also look at even the culture, our culture, because we have a culture. And if something happens to an elderly, just assume that this was my father or my mother. How would I react? And you remember a case of a journalist who took a picture of children being, a child who was crying, and vultures were just circulating around and wanted to eat the child. And for him, he was focusing on taking the pictures until he became the best. He became the best photographer in the world, but he committed suicide because he went and reflected. What if I had taken that child away instead of just taking the picture? Maybe I would have saved the life of a human being, but now I did not. I only focus on my work. So we need, as journalists, to really ask ourselves those questions before we put anything, not just that issue of the president, but anything else. Before we put out, we must ask ourselves these questions. And if you have any doubt, then that means you do not need to put these things out. Another thing, let alone now the issue of the code of conduct. Our code of conduct is clear. Such a thing you're not supposed to put out. There are ethics that you're supposed to follow. All of us as journalists, we know this. And another thing is also, you go to the law of South Sudan itself, Penal Code Act 2008, Section 76, talks of insulting the president or inciting the public against the president. Are you seeing? Or the office of the president or acting president. So if you are going to put out something that is going to incite the public against the president, then you know that there's a law that gets you. Are you seeing? And this law, by the way, it says if you are found guilty, you will be in jail for 1 year or fine or with both. So there is also this law, which as journalists, we need to know. So before you put out anything, you need to first do a wider research on what you want to put out. And even when you find issues that many people say is our job to expose things like corruption, first investigate it well, double check, and find out proper information. Because if it happens that what you're putting out is wrong or unethical, it will bring issues. And this is the situation we found ourselves in. And as I said, yes, as a union, even if today the investigation from the national security shows that this is the person who has done it, what we will say is let's go to court. Let's follow the law. If there is only to be punishment, let it be according to the law, not outside the law. But we will stand with the person. We will provide the legal aid that is needed, and we will always stand with our people. And it will also be a learning experience for the rest of the people. The law should be followed. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Oyet Patrick, for giving out such critical documents. And if there are some journalists outside there, and most especially we online media personnel who are practicing, should also be in a position to get such documents and
Let me cut you. Let me
themselves.
cut you a bit. I have copies, so you just direct me to whom I should give, and they will. I will give, and you define a way of sending them to you. I have copies of the code of conduct. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I can give you up to 10.
Wow.
I can give you up to 10 copies.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, the last questions, we are almost coming to an end. The last questions, Mr. Patrick, is the issue of smartphone, which our government prohibited that journalists should not be allowed to use their phones to cover any event due to some reasons. And then you appeal to them that sometimes there are some circumstances that the journalist could be using his own apparatus or his own gadget. Meanwhile, there are some things that also need his phone in order to capture the full event. So what was the process so far? Has you've been given green light, or the government is still insisting that we should not use a smartphone in case of any event? We need you to brief the public in regard to that topic. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Two things. Number one, the Media Authority, which is the regulator of media houses and journalists in South Sudan, said when you go for high-profile meetings, such as the ones of the presidents and maybe vice presidents, you should not use the phone. If you want to use a phone to cover such event, ask security to clear you to use it. And from our experience, when the Governors Forum was going on in Juba last year, some journalists who went and tried to request security to allow them to use the phones were not allowed. So that clearly means that the message that was put across by Media Authority was either misunderstood, or the security are using the powers that have been given to them, that they should be asked, and they are not granting permission for that matter. For that reason, we have written to Media Authority and we have asked that Media Authority should recognize mobile phones as being used by journalists as media equipment that could be used to take pictures, to take videos, that could be used for broadcast as well as for publishing in other media. We have not yet received any response from the Media Authority since then. The only response we got was that they received the document and they were looking at it, and up to now, we've not got a response from them. We think this is very important. We think this is very, very important because some of the big world media houses now use mobile phones to broadcast live, whether interviews or some events that are broadcast. They're broadcast on phone. Just a matter of downloading a software which is linked to a decoder in the studio, and the whole thing is going live. So it's very important. Myself, as a journalist, I also use a phone actually to broadcast live, to send live signals to the channels I work for. So it is very important, and we are continuing to push for this so that it is recognized when being used by professional journalists. It should be recognized as being used specifically for media work. I know with what happened in December with the president, it makes our case very weak because some people are going to try to use it to try to justify that we should not be allowed to use phones and so on. But it just doesn't hold water. The world has moved so much ahead, and these phones, we cannot just say they should not be used as media equipment.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Oyet Patrick, for that explanation and for that briefing or update to the public. Yeah, indeed, we understand government system across the world is always slow. So the only notification is that we have received the letter, and then you wait until we'll get back to you. Yeah. Thank you for that. Actually, we have come to an end of our conversation of today. But before we end it, I would allow you to give us your last remark and last your message to the journalists, and most especially the online media platform, and also South Sudanese on how they relate themselves and the issues of the country with the internet. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to say that as journalists, we should continue to do work. We should improve and do better work. We have key roles to play, as I mentioned earlier, to ensure the civic education for our population to understand what is going on, and to make sure that the culture of violence is totally done away with, and we are in a culture of dialogue. This is very important. To the online media, I would like to say that they have a very, very important role going forward, like Lake State Media. When elections took place in Kenya last year, many of us in South Sudan were following online. That tells you of how important now the online media is. And with elections coming, with campaigns, political parties traversing the whole country campaigning, I am sure it is the online media that are going to be bringing us live events from the various campaigns that will be going on. And with the elections that will take place and results will be coming in, I am sure it is the online media that will be really, really giving us timely updates. So I encourage really online media like Lake State Media to do more. I know it's expensive to invest in equipment, but it is the right thing to do. It is the way to go. That's where the world is heading. And we believe that that also, when the online media provides accurate information timely, it kills of this disinformation, misinformation, or information distortion that is always found in the social media, because people will say, look, Lake State Media is saying this, and we trust it, and that is what we are going to believe in. So whatever comes online and the source is not clear, people will say, no, let us go to a real media, which is online, and we know the people behind it, we know the faces behind it. So I think there's a very, very big role for online media. Now, if you move around the country, according to the latest data from National Communications Authority, at least there are about 2 million people in South Sudan who have access to internet. Now that is something, and mobile phones are becoming more and more, and people access most of the news through their smartphones. So that means the online is the thing, the next big thing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, President of the Union of Journalists, South Sudan, Mr. Oyet Patrick. On behalf of Lake State Media, I will just say thank you so much for always giving us your time to come and speak to South Sudanese and give us updates on what is happening on the ground. And for South Sudan to be a better nation, it does not need us to fold our hand and we watch the political class to do their things. Also, the political aspiration of the countries are always shaped by the citizen and their media personnel. It is our responsibility, as you rightly put it before, that South Sudan need ethical journalists that can shape the image of our country and do the right thing in accordance with the law of the land. Thank you so much. I will yield it back to my brother Abraham Adit to give word of appreciation, and to our viewers rather. Thank you so much for always tuning into Lagos State Media and listen to our guests. It is our mandate as a media outlet to bring guests to you in order to get the first-hand information. Thank you so much, and may God bless you all. Abraham Adit.
Thank you, Mjong Makur, and thank you, President Oyet Patrick, for coming to Lagos State Media. We appreciate for coming in today. Have a blessing night. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Have a blessed night.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
Thank you.